Have you been enjoying our Impact Podcast and our great guests? Then please give us a thumbs up and leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your favorite podcasts. This episode of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Closed Loop Partners. Closed Loop Partners is a leading circular economy investor in the United States with an extensive network of Fortune 500 corporate investors, family offices, institutional investors, industry experts, and impact partners. Closed Loop's platform spans the arc of capital from venture capital to private equity, bridging gaps and fostering synergies to scale the circular economy. To find Closed Loop Partners, please go to www.closedlooppartners.com. This episode of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by CO2.com. Companies today are trying to figure out how to achieve high-quality climate credentials. CO2.com is the easy button for any business to go beyond offsetting and fund truly impactful projects across carbon, nature, and community. CO2 provides verified metrics that can be used in reporting and messaging. Have confidence in demonstrating your climate leadership. Go to CO2.com to access quality climate credentials you can trust on the road to net zero and nature positive. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. I'm John Shigeri, and I'm so honored to have with us today my good friend Todd Zegers. Welcome to the Impact Podcast, Todd.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me today. It's good to see you, man.
Hey, Todd, it's always great to see you. And, today we're going to be talking about the life of an entrepreneur. You have a new venture you've started, Circular Integrity. And for our listeners and viewers who want to find Todd and all the great work he's doing at Circular Integrity, you can go to www.circularintegrity.com. The name says it all, but we're going to get into that in a little while. Before we get into your new venture, Todd, and your life as an entrepreneur again, talk a little bit about the Todd Zegers journey. Where did you grow up? How do you even get involved with the ITAD industry and the industry of making the world a better place?
Thanks. Well, it's funny. We had a conversation a few years back with some of my colleagues at my former employer, and we were talking about, what our first job was. So I was born in Davenport, Iowa. My dad was a Motorola guy out of Chicago. That's where our family was from. And he relocated to Davenport, Iowa to open a sales office for Motorola. So that's kind of where I was conceived and came into existence. So, but, in Iowa, it was funny. It was a very small town. Obviously, lived in a place called Bettendorf, and my dad would play softball on, I think, Wednesday or Thursday nights, and they used to drink a lot of beer. So there was always these cans, these aluminum cans sitting around. And in Iowa, there's a 5-cent refund on aluminum cans, right? So the joke was that this was my first job ever, was kind of going out hustling and collecting aluminum cans to go turn at the grocery store to buy candy and toys, right? So I've been an entrepreneur since I was probably 5 or 6 years old, collecting aluminum cans, which is just ironic of the industry that I'm in today. It was kind of a precursor. So,
wait a second. Everything's adding up now. First of all, you're a mobility baby because your dad was a Motorola executive. So you're the son of a mobility executive. Secondarily, you're a recycling entrepreneur from 5 years old. So, I mean, now it's all making sense. Mobility, recycling. Okay. No wonder you're in the ITAD business. You were born to be in it, obviously. So, that's great. That's great. How long were you out there in Iowa, until you guys moved together?
I was born there. We moved here we didn't move here. We moved to Arizona when I was 9. My dad feverishly hated the snow, and he got an opportunity to relocate to Arizona. If you remember, Motorola was very big in Arizona back in those days. So we did that. It's funny, John, as I think about what I was doing as a kid. I used to take my brother's toys and sell them on a toy sale on the corner too. So I've been selling a refurbished product for a lot of really.
This all makes sense, Todd. We don't need psychologists or therapists here. This is all very clear. Wow, how you even ended up on this journey. So you're growing up in Arizona, and you went to high school there and college there.
Yeah, so I went to a big high school there in Arizona. I used to play baseball. I hurt my shoulder, so I'm like, I got to figure out a different way to go to college. So I actually got into golf my sophomore year in high school. Didn't make the team. Wound up making the team my junior year. Didn't even play in the playing squad. And then in my senior year, I was all state. So I ended up getting a scholarship to Scottsdale Community College. They were the #1 JC in the nation for golf back then. So that's where I got into college. And when I was going to college there, a bunch of the golf buddies used to go to the Native American reservations to play poker. So I started doing that a little bit on the side, and ironically started getting into dealing poker and playing poker. So I did that for from 93 to 98. So right after high school, I got into that and finished my degree at Scottsdale Community College and went to ASU. And I think I dropped out of ASU towards the tail end of my junior year because I wanted to be a professional poker player.
Oh,
But after making about maybe $7 or $8 an hour playing poker versus $20 an hour dealing, I realized it wasn't going to be a very good career. So,
oh my gosh. Do you still play poker for fun? Is poker still bad?
a little bit, I play in buddies' home games, but you know me, we've known each other for a little bit now. I like to talk fast. Everything I do is pretty fast, and these home
Yeah.
games are very slow and torturous to me. So
Yeah.
I would prefer to play online or in a casino. But with the kids and the family right now, I'm just
Yeah.
an hour of TV, much less trying to go play poker with my
Yeah.
buddies.
You're a dad. You're a husband and a dad. I got it. So then you're now you decide that that's not your future. So what was the next step when you decide poker wasn't going to be your long-term future?
Yeah, so I had a few of my friends that got a job. A couple of guys went to work at Insight, the big IT reseller out of Tempe. A
Right.
few guys went to a company called Unicor, which is an IT distributor back in those days. It was kind of owned by MicroAge. So I started there, worked there for a couple months, and then my buddy said, "Hey, you got to come over to Insight. It's really great over here," and which it was. So in '98, I jumped ship and learned how to sell computers, hardware, software, et cetera. So getting on the phone, making 100 phone calls a day, and just dialing for dollars, right? So I did that for 4 years there, was very successful, made President's Club and Chairman's Club and all that kind of stuff. And in 2002, Insight, so it was kind of mail order, it was mostly hardware and software. They realized they needed to get into the services sector. So they bought a company out of Chicago called Comark, which was another enterprise IT reseller, but they had a services division, and they brought a few of us kind of top reps over into the services group to learn that and help them grow that business. So in doing that, Comark had an ITAD program. So that's actually where I learned about ITAD.
Kidding. When did you have the entrepreneurial itch to decide to go into business for yourself?
So it's funny because one of the, Insight was an amazing company. The culture there was incredible. They invested their people, and they actually put me in touch. They started bringing mentors in for some of the top salespeople to kind of figure out, what we're going to do in the future. And I'll never forget the day I sat down with this guy. This guy's name was Mike. He used to be a consultant for like TGI Fridays and a bunch of other really cool things. But the guy was awesome. He said, "Todd, one day I see you sitting on a boat running a fishing charter and owning a bar down in the Bahamas or something." So I've got the boat now. But I get the bar down in the Bahamas. But he just basically told me, he's like, you need to get a mentor, right? I never really had a mentor. My dad was a great business coach, but my dad could only take me so far.
Right.
Right as rain, probably a couple of weeks later, I asked, there was a guy named Robert Parker that was running Insight Global Finance back then, and his division was overseeing the ITAD group. So he became my mentor, and he started talking about this ITAD stuff. I'm like, you know what? That seems like a pretty cool thing. I know we just sold, a bazillion computers in 1999 for the whole Y2K panic. So there's going to be a lot of material coming out here pretty soon. So I decided, you know what? It's time. I'm making Insight a lot of great money. I want to go do that and go do it for myself and just kind of set my own schedule. So cashed out my 401k, whatever little bit of stock options I had, and bought a computer, sat in my front living room, and started making phone calls to old customers trying to hustle, sell some ITAD services.
What year was this?
That was 2003.
So you're all in, 401k, all in. It's just like a garage. It was just like a garage startup, except it's in your living room and you're an entrepreneur now. Oh, there's a lot of people that watch and listen to this show that want to be you. They want to be the next you. They read about and watch the Elon Musks of the world and the Zuckerbergs and the Todd Zegers of the world, and they are enamored with the entrepreneurial journey. How was it for you from what you thought it was going to be like to what it really was like?
Well, back then, because I had a mentor and a few partners coming in with me, I had a lot of people who have kind of been through the ringer a little bit themselves. So I was an entrance for me because just something as simple as filing your LLC and getting a bank account set up, like some of the really fundamental basics of just starting a business, people are very scared of.
Right.
Now that I went and had to do it myself a month or so ago,
right,
it's so much easier than people think it is. And there's people that can help you through that, right? So
right.
I think that was, a nice piece of having that there. But getting the desire to go out and do it. Really, it's the TV show. I have a 22-year-old daughter and I have a 5 and 7-year-old. So I've been watching a lot of kids movies for a very long time.
Right.
And there's a movie called Robots. I can't remember Pixar or whatever it is, but there's a guy in there called Big Weld, and he always talks about, see a need, fill a need. So that's what I'm constantly doing is looking for where there are needs in the world, especially in fields that I love, like technology, and I love the environment. So I saw, an emerging need to go do that. So when the idea came up, I was all over it. I didn't really know what I was doing, kind of like when I jumped in this consulting business. I'd never been a consultant before, but I've had some pretty good success already. But that's really what it's about to me, is looking for needs that are in areas that are really passionate to your heart, so you can spend morning, noon, and night doing it. It doesn't feel like work. And I think the people who are really successful are the ones that can take technology and apply technology to that need and somehow disrupt that or make it differentiated from anybody else in that space.
That's a great point, Todd, because like even when you're filling white space, when you see the white space and voids out there and you decide to fill them, they still have to be personal and something that you really care about, because in every venture, the fit hits the shan at some point. Yeah. And you got to be able to push through that. You got to be able to push through that. So that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. So you start this in about 2003. How did it go? Like, talk about the beginnings. You had a couple of seasoned veterans with you, which makes it, like you said, a little less scary, a little easier, because you have some people around you, plus a mentor. How did it go in terms of the scaling of that venture then?
Yes. So our model back then, and think 20 years ago, obviously you know the space very well. 20 years ago, there wasn't a company like yourself that has 9 locations or whatever it is all across the country. You ITAD, right? Or maybe maybe a couple of good people in each kind of major market. So I realized there was a need for these large nationwide corporations to have kind of that single pane of glass and one throat to choke. And back then there wasn't a lot of online tracking systems and online ordering, especially in the ITAD space. So what I realized I could do is go out and create partnerships all across the country in the major metropolitan areas with best-in-class partners. And then I built a system called Green Track with our partners that basically sat on top of all that. So if it's a pickup in San Francisco, I'd use this partner. If it's a pickup in Chicago, I'd use this partner. If it's a pickup in New York, I'd use that partner, and even globally, right? So all that reporting would feed back through a single pane of glass. So again, applying technology to kind of really fill a need for large corporations to kind of aggregate and kind of keep all of their asset management and tracking, all in one place. So that was really the charter. We realized we kept looking at, do we want to open a warehouse, this, that, and the other, but obviously it's very expensive to do that thing. And it takes a lot of capital, time, expertise, et cetera, to get that up and going. There wasn't a Todd Zegers, who was a consultant 20 years ago, who could show me the ropes.
Right.
So we built that, right? And as we grew, and this was when the time when corporations were starting to get more aware of what was really happening, with their electronic assets. And they started coming out to audit, facilities and see what was going on there. One of the challenges we ran into is these companies loved our platform, they loved our service, they loved our pricing, but when they go out to visit your site and they're taking it to a partner every single time, right? They don't like that. They want kind of that single throat to choke, also to have the entire chain of custody of their products. So that was when we were starting to raise money. If you remember 2008, 2009, the economy wasn't doing so great. You're in the commodity space, so I'm sure you felt the pain of that back then.
Right.
But Cloud Blue, who was Ken Byer was the CEO there, and Kevin Corrigan and some other folks, they were running that business. They were one of our partners. We were always getting really good values from those guys, really good logistics pricing and everything else. So I said, hey, Ken, I can't really raise any money right now. Our investors are out. What do you think about, doing something? I think maybe in a 15-minute conversation, we agreed that, we would join forces. So, fast forward a few months, we joined Cloud Blue. And what was amazing to me is, the same set of customers that we were serving at that time probably turned into 4x the revenue in the first year of joining Cloud Blue, because what I came to realize was that a lot of the recovery revenues and scrap revenues, everything else that our partners were sending out, were not legitimate, right? I was getting kind of hosed, if you will. Really happening there, which again is one of the big mantras of why I started Circular Integrity, because there's still a lot of that in our space. And something needs to be done about it, right? Because people are getting sold a bill of goods. That's not always true.
Yeah, people are afraid. It's a great point about the what you did with Ken, in that people are afraid of sometimes partnering up. They want to. They think the world was a zero-sum game, but here you took 1 and 1. You and Ken's Cloud Blue, and you were in first year were 4. What you were at 2, you were 4. So it wasn't 1 and 1 equals 2, it was 1 and 1 equals 4. So both of you saw the intrinsic value to partnering up, and that size does matter. Scale does matter in most industries. And you started making one of the bigger scale companies in our industry happening. And for our listeners and viewers out there, first of all, we've got Todd Zegers with us today. He's my good friend. He's the president and CEO of Circular Integrity. To find Todd, you go to www.circularintegrity.com. Back then, Todd, when 2003, when you started, just for our listeners to understand, there was no thing. ESG wasn't an acronym that was being used. Sustainability was before Inconvenient Truth came out. This was before the iPhone came out. This was before the shift from linear to circular economy. So you were literally, an environmental and ITAD OG. Literally from the pre-days of this whole thing, and helped really start and grow up an industry. So how did it evolve with you and Ken post-merger, post-first year? You had a great merger. 1 and 1 is equaling 4. How did it evolve from there?
Well, I think from a sheer business perspective and building a business, right? Ken Byer was amazing. I've learned the number of lessons and just IP that I've got from just being around him over all these years has been amazing. And my gift has always been the gift of gab a little bit, and the ability to sell. I was always really, really good at selling. So I think there was a good fit for me at Cloud Blue to really focus on going out to the marketplace and finding ways and developing solutions. Because as you probably know very well, whether it's e-waste or ITAD, very few customers do things the same way. So you have to be able to think on your feet, listen to the customer's need, and kind of pitch a little bit of vaporware that, hey, listen, I see what you need. Our systems can do that. Just give us another month and we'll develop it and make it happen, right? So
right.
I think my ability to kind of sense a need and fill a need, going back to my comment earlier, was kind of ironic. Was really good at getting corporations to want to use us. And Kevin Corrigan, who was my counterpart on the remarketing side of the house, right? He was really good at selling product, because you and I both know that, green is really cool, but when times are tough, like it was in 2008, 2009, and probably much like it is now, cash becomes king. So if you're not really good at selling product and finding homes for those, a lot of times you're not going to win a lot of business. So we had a really, really great team led by Ken.
And then how long until you guys had, you decided we've taken this a long way, we've done real good, and someone was willing to write you a check that got you both of your attention?
Well, look, I was just a low man on the totem pole. It was Ken Byer and Randy Altschuler were really the owners, and then we had a private equity firm that was involved with it as well. But if you remember at that time, that's when Arrow was doing their big roll up. I think they bought 14 companies. I think Avnet had bought some players in the space. So, to see Ingram make a move and get in and buy our organization, it wasn't really a surprise. I didn't really get notified much until it was almost a done deal.
Right.
But when you look at why Ken chose to partner with Ingram, Mike, was because of their global footprint, and I think the natural attachment to their core distribution business, right? Cloud Blue is very good at PC laptop kind of distributed assets, and that's a significant portion of Ingram's business, right? They obviously do data, so they do pretty much everything under the sun, but they have a very large business in that space. So it was a really good attachment for us, not only because of the types of products they sell and just IT generally, but also the number of global locations that they have, right? Going back to my comment earlier, most U.S. ITAD companies can serve their clients here in the U.S., but most have to use a partner. And even at my other companies, we had to use partners. And, if you go to Uruguay or Turkey or some other small country where you don't have a lot of volume, you're never going to set up a facility there. So the need for partners is always necessary. But the more kind of brick and mortar with your name on the side of the building you have to tighten up the chain of custody and make sure you're getting the right value recovery is pretty important. So we thought Ingram's footprint was a really, really good fit for us. They had a great culture and everything else.
So what year was this when that your Cloud Blue sold to Ingram?
2013.
So 2013. So you joined Ingram as an executive and continue to work your way up the ladder, and eventually you became one of the top, leaders at that company. And that was an amazing and great run. That's how I got to meet you, and we got to be friends, and you got to be known as one of the people in the industry with true integrity. Everybody loves you. Literally nobody ever says, I've never heard a negative thing about you ever. And so when did you start understanding that this was another great organization, just like Insight was, and you had a whole nother set of skills and a great run there and a great experience there, and you multiplied the sale of Cloud Blue many times over. I mean, it turned out to be another brilliant move by Ken and his partners and you in terms of why that fit worked. 1 and 1 equal many times over, just like you envisioned it. And when did you start seeing the white space again that intrigued you?
I think there's always been a lot of opportunity. If you look at any economic cycle or business cycle of, it grows and then it has a retooling phase and it grows and it has a retooling phase, right? Kind of on that curve up and down over the course of time. I think with COVID, as we all know, COVID really kind of pumped up our industry, right? It made a lot of values better. It made people pay more attention to it. The demand for refurbished products was like never before. But, along with that came, higher wages and a bunch of other challenges in the space. So I saw a lot of opportunity that there was going to be a lot of turnover and a lot of change in the industry. It was a good time to make a move, but that really wasn't the driving factor of why I left, right? I typically what I try to do, if you look at my career from 93 to 98, poker, 98 to 2003, Insight, 2003 to 2008, Green Asset Disposal, 2008, 2009 to 13, Ingram, and then 10 years there, right? I really try to, one of my mentors always told me to try to reinvent yourself every 5 years. And when you start a business, a 5-year run, that's kind of when it should be humming on all cylinders, right?
Yeah.
So I've always had it in the back of my mind. But I really loved Ingram and the team that's still at Ingram that, we built the company with. It wasn't me. It was, a collective effort of all of my leadership team and all of our team members on the floor. We had a lot of success and I loved working there. I loved working with my team and everything else. But at some point, again, I have a 22-year-old daughter from my first marriage and I missed a lot of her life. Travel for business is very heavy, especially as you work your way up the executive ranks and especially when you're in a global role. So in January of this year, I was out with COVID and I was sitting in a room for 7 days by myself and probably had too much time to think. And I said, you know what, maybe it's time to make a change, right? So, I had a conversation with leadership and said, listen, guys, I really want to go focus on, a better work-life balance and not so much that, but more being with my family. Because by the way, the work-life balance is self-imposed. It's not because of any company you work for. It's up to you how much you want to spend, right? So and I realized that very quickly in doing what I'm doing now. But my kids are 5 and 7. They're kindergarten and first grade right now. So I want to be there to tuck them in as much as possible. We actually just got a new office about a mile away from our house now that we have a little lobby area set up. My daughter got the design, how we're going to do the layout. And
awesome.
So it's a family office, right? My wife's a newborn maternity photographer. Half of that's her studio. The other half is, my office and a conference room and stuff like that. So to me, that's the American dream. So, what could be better than that? As long as I can pay my bills and I have that time with my family and that, our kids get to see us being entrepreneurs. So how much better of an example could a father be from a work ethic perspective to show them that, hey, listen, me and your mother both went and started our own businesses. My daughter was talking the other day about aquariums. She said earlier, she said she wanted to work at an aquarium. And then I think the other day she was telling me, Daddy, I really want to go start my own aquarium. Right. And that gets me like a motor.
Chip off the old block. And it's funny you say that. You're still very young, Todd. And it's great that you've come to realize, because most of us realize it when it's too late. You don't have a second chance at your children's childhood, unfortunately. There's a lot of things in life where you get a second and third chance at, but at your children's childhood, once it goes, it goes. Once they're 5, they're 5. They're not going to be 5 again. So it's great that you're doing this now, so you can all be together and you and your wife get to be great examples to them. Talk about the white space that you saw, because as you said about 15 minutes ago, there were no Todd Zegers to lead the way for you back in 2003. But by the way, the funny part is what I'm seeing, once you decided to launch your new business and announce it, is that there's still really no Todd Zegers in our industry. And now she's a big deal. And now integrity is bigger than ever, which is part of your name, which I love. And circular to linear economy is bigger than ever, which again is something why you put that in your brand name, and sustainability is here to stay. So there were no Todd Zegers, and from where I sit, you're the only consultant really that with your body of 20 years of experience stepping into this space. Talk about your vision for starting Circular Integrity and the space that you're filling and the role that you want to play in the industry from here on out?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that there's a lot more complexity that's getting put into the ITAD space, right? 20 years ago, you could just back up a truck, takes people's stuff away. Maybe you give them a receipt or certificate, and they're okay. The guy down the street took it. Yeah, he gave me a certificate, but he doesn't know if the person has insurance or what they're doing back in their operations and that kind of stuff, right? So
Right.
think of caveman style ITAD 20 years ago versus where it is today and versus where it's going to be even in 10 years from now, right? You talk about ESG and circularity, and again, back in 2008, 2009. So the company we started in 2003 was called CARD, which is Computer Asset Remarketing and Disposal. We rebranded in 2007 to Green Asset Disposal because there was a massive wave around being green. So we wanted to take advantage of that. And it was also the day where whatever you do as your company, you make that your name.com, right?
Right.
So, and obviously when the economy changed and commodity markets went down and just generally the financial times were tough, right? Green wasn't quite as cool. Now, what I would tell you is that may be a similar scenario or dynamic we're going to live through in today's day and age, but I think the ESG framework is going to change that. And the reason I say that is, having worked at a big company, seeing the efforts that they put in to make sure ESG is front and center was very prevalent in our daily lives there. But I also see where, a couple of years back, you can do a quarterly business review with the client on your ITAD services, and maybe the last slide or somewhere there you have an environmental slide, and it's nice to have, and they pass it along, and then nothing happens. Today's day and age, I just got done interviewing about 20 CEOs over the last couple of weeks. Customers are proactively coming to them, asking them for that ESG data, right? It's no longer just a nice to have, it's a requirement.
Right.
And the real need there, going into your white space comment, is there's a million different environmental calculators out there, right, that are taking inputs and giving out data. Some of them have been looked at by MIT or ASU or you name the entity out there, but there's not really one kind of guiding light and kind of North Star for that. So I'd like to figure out how I can help drive that, whether it's my own or whether I help, collaborate and bring people together to make that happen. An environmental calculator is absolutely critical, but, taking that a step further, how do you create some sort of ESG calculator where you've got the environmental piece, you've got a social mechanism built in there, and obviously as well as the governance that is blessed and tried and tested by industry experts and people who have the authority to say, yes, I believe in the data that's coming out of that. Because now you talk about a powerful tool for an recycler, for an e-waste recycler, an ITAD company, not only to give back to their clients, but to do for themselves. Because you got to remember, if large companies, the Fortune 1000, are embedding ESG in the framework of their organization, their DNA, when they start doing business with either other companies of their size, medium companies, and even small companies, they're going to start requiring that, just like supplier diversity and other things. So I think ESG is here to stay. And, going to your white space comment, it's still white space. I spent the last few weeks spending a lot of time diving into ESG, and I thought I knew a little bit. I know nothing, right? I know a decent amount, but the amount of opportunity to learn out there is incredible. And, I love learning. So it's been a really cool experience so far. And, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up in a year from now. I'm trying to kind of navigate those waters, but something tells me it's going to be something very close in the ESG sector as it relates to the reverse and ITAD industries.
But Todd, there is no, correct me if I'm wrong, from where I sit, there is no other consultant in our industry with 20 years experience like you have on all sides of it: reverse logistics, resale and remarketing, the sales side, the sales cycle side of it, the tracking side of it, the technology side of it. There is no Todd Zegers for anyone to coach young entrepreneurs who want to get in this industry. There's plenty of room for young entrepreneurs who are listening or dreaming about being an entrepreneur and wanting to make the world a better place to get in this industry. Plus, there's very little connectivity among, as you say, all the various CEOs out there and a common understanding of what does ESG really mean to all of us to go forward. So there's lots of white space for your new role in this industry.
No, I totally agree. And my years of global experience, right? I've racked up miles, much like you probably have over many years. So I've been set up, and I spent the last couple of years in the mobility space as well. So, you pretty much name the widget, and I've done a piece of it somewhere.
I mean, in terms of circular integrity, when you started it, who were you hoping, and who has already, if you're allowed to talk about it, become some of your clients? Or what is the client base you're looking for? Is it to coach the young entrepreneur that wants to get in the industry? Is it to coach and better some of the the larger players in the industry? Is it to coach some of the NGOs who need some help on what the commercial enterprises are doing and how they can better interconnect with the commercial enterprises? Where were you most excited to fit in and to become a leader in?
I think where I could add the most value, if I'm honest with you, is helping out with like private equity firms or strategic players looking to move into the space, right? I mean, again, you and I saw what happened with Arrow. They bought 14 companies in a very short period of time together, and
right,
it went end well for Arrow, right? But I've seen them and I've seen others make mistakes of doing acquisitions, of not really understanding, what it takes to run an ITAD organization and all the complexities that really come with it. People underestimate how complex of a service ITAD really is, right? And the challenge is it's typically a low top line revenue business, typically higher margins, right? So that's what's attractive and why people want to get in the space. But the top line is fairly low. So the people come in wanting to make, turn this $50 million ITAD into $2 billion in 5 years. And I want to be the one to tell me, listen, I love your ambition, but trying to do that, you have to buy up almost every single ITAD e-waste company in the United States to try to get there, because you don't understand the financial dynamics. Because by the way, a lot of times this product comes out of an installment somewhere, it goes to an ITAD, that maybe makes its way to a specialist and then down to an e-waste company. So a lot of times this revenue size that everybody tries to project in the market space is, double and triple counted. So, having that type of insights to share with companies who are looking to spend a lot of money on a very big investment and give them some of the catches in there that they need to be careful of, right? And looking at people's balance sheets, looking at their income statements and looking at their operations and understanding, hey, what they're telling you that, yes, this is legitimate, or hey, listen, you may want to dive into this a little bit further because I don't believe in that. It's just not possible because I've seen everybody else's financials and I know how this business works. That's where I make the most value in the space, is in that space.
So talk about the differentials of being an entrepreneur in 2003 and 20 years later, basically being an entrepreneur again, obviously. It's always exciting. It's always a little bit scary, but it's always fascinating and exciting. Beyond that, now you're a seasoned vet. Like you said earlier, you know how to set up the LLC, you know how to get the website going, you know how to get all the technical things happening. How is the scaling of it and landing, always the first client and then the add-on clients and then making it be what you want it to be? Because this is really, you get to craft what you really want here. This is your baby and no partners here. How's that going so far?
It's going great. I obviously have to, after leaving my prior company, there's certain things I can do and certain things I can't do. So I always have to make sure I respect that first and foremost. And I mention of never starting an ITAD company myself again. I don't want to I don't want to be married to it. I want to work the hours I work and be with my family, like I said.
Yeah.
The biggest difference to me is, 20 years ago, I was 28 then, right? So the young buck, tons of energy, but I didn't have a very large kind of partner and business network, right? I was a sales guy. I was selling whatever products that Insight had available to sell and some services. So after 20 years of being in this space, again, globally, touching enterprise hardware, touching distributed assets, touching mobile phones, having locations all around the world, dealing with different types of software, right? The partnerships and relationships you build, especially over the course of 20 years, is priceless, right? And I think your personal capital and IP that you retain by being a good guy and doing the right thing and never taking the quick and easy way, you take the right path over the course of time. That all adds up. So, when I decided to leave and when I left Ingram Micro, I started making phone calls to people I knew and say, listen, this is what I'm looking to do. Do you have any projects? Do you have any of this? Do you have any of that I can help out with? And people are like, when can you start, right? So the challenge I have now is saying no to things that may not be the best fit for me at the time or not the best use of my time. But you also, involved with that, I've had a bazillion phone calls with all these people that I know, which has been fantastic. But, at some point, my time is now literally my money as a consultant, right? I'm not selling a product or a true service anymore. The time I spend on a phone call is where I make my money. So you have to be careful not to just waste a lot of time with people that are just calling you to say hi. I mean, that's fine. Let's talk after hours. But when it comes to my business, you have to take that seriously. That's one of the challenges I've had so far, is because I love to talk to everybody. I want to learn, but I wouldn't always say it's good money after bad or wasted time, because with every conversation you learn something, right? You pick up something here, pick up something here, pick up something here.
Right.
And I can put these three things together and make a product or an offering that I can take to the market. So it's I'm still trying to figure out who I want to be when I grow up, right? Again, John, the amount of opportunity in this space right now through every kind of facet is just, it's unbelievable. And I think maybe it's always been there, but now that I'm outside of working for a competitor, a perceived
Yeah,
competitor, it's available to me. But I don't think there's ever been as much opportunity in this space as there is right now.
I agree with you. And I still feel like at ERI, we're at the top of the second inning. And, when the statistics show, Todd, that only 17%, this is the UN numbers back from 2017, that only 17% of all electronic waste is being responsibly recycled, either on destruction or an ITAD basis, when it comes to its end of life or close to its end of life. And the numbers are anecdotally even less in the United States, but 17% is a worldwide number. There's an 83% delta for all the young entrepreneurs out there and all the seasoned veterans to go capture still. I mean, that's still that's still an industry in its nascent stage. So you get to be a 20-year veteran that gets to become a leadership coach and a mentor and a hired assassin, and all those great things for private equity firms, NGOs, large corporations, small entities that want to grow. And like I said, I know the reverse logistics side of it, the remarketing side of it, the sales cycle side of it, the technology and the importance of, as you said earlier, the leveraging technology for radical transparency, which is in high demand today. So it must be exciting. You're a month or so into this now. Are you busier or less busy than you thought you'd be 1 month into this?
Busier.
Busier.
Sure.
Good problem. That's a good problem.
But again, it's a lot, some of it's white noise busy, so I got to start getting better at managing my time a little bit better. But
but that's everyone's challenge. I think, Todd, that's a challenge that we all have with all the distractions in this world, including technology. That technology, the curse and the blessing of technology is text messages, emails, phone calls. That's just from a phone technology. Imagine then, family and friends and you have young children and you have a wife, and both of you are entrepreneurs. Your prioritization is constantly, as an entrepreneur and as a family man, constantly shifting every day based upon wants and needs of those that you love, and the ability also to bring in put the dinner on the table, so to speak. That's the fun of being the entrepreneur and also the CEO and your own boss. So good for you. Good for you. So what do you see? Todd, is this what's your, like, when you go to bed at night, circular integrity? And for those listeners and viewers that just joined us, we got Todd Zegers, the president, CEO, and founder of Circular Integrity. To find Todd in his important work in the ITAD space, go to www.circularintegrity.com. It's ITAD, ESG, circular economy, making the world a better place space. When you go to bed at night, like, do you dream like 5 years from now you'll have 30 consultants underneath you and you'll be consulting on a worldwide basis, or you just want to limit it to 5 or 10 people, or you want to limit it to just yourself and 2 or 3 people? What's your dream on this venture?
That is a fantastic question that I've constantly go back and forth on, because there's a side of me that just wants to just do a couple of good clients and just live a quality lifestyle and just kind of get by. But there's the entrepreneur and the hunger in my belly that sees an opportunity to really create something big and something special and something different in space, right? So that's $1 million question. But I can tell you, I had a conversation with my kind of ongoing business mentor, one of the guys that's on Mike Warren, who's on my advisory board, and he told me, like, Stop trying to build something that you're going to take out and sell. Stop trying to build something that you're going to be the king of the empire in 5 years. Enjoy your life. Do some consulting. Work with some people you like. Don't think of this as where there's an end game. He's like, I'm planning on doing this till I'm in my 70s or my 80s, right? So if you start making it a true part of your life and doing it because you genuinely love doing it, right, that's the way to go. And if something happens along the way and it turns out and it takes off or whatever else, so be it. But that was probably the best piece of advice. Like, he's given me a lot of good advice, but that was a really good piece of advice. And it really helped me kind of calm down and not want to kind of go take the hill and just go conquer the world and go build everything big. So, I think, one of the things I really want to try to do, John, kind of that attaches nicely to that is, there's only one of me. So how do I kind of commoditize myself, or build some kind of subscription model, or membership model where, some of my IP or my experience can be sent out through a client portal or a login where people have access to that kind of IP, or take some of the key things that I've learned and put them into practice to where they're accessible and I don't have to be on the phone 24/7 to try to monetize that and make a living off of it, right? So I think that's something I would look to do. But building that type of thing, that's not something where my strength. So I have to build a team to come on to help me build some of these things. So I definitely think over time I'll bring on people to help me with the venture. But right now I'm just trying to make sure that I live up to my commitments to my family, that I took on this job to go be more with them and be at my son's t-ball game like I was yesterday. Be able to take vacations with them like we're going on spring break next week versus doing phone calls while I'm on vacation. So
That's so great. Great. What's the goal just for this year? What do you want to, in terms of how many clients you want to land just your first year or your first 6 months? And how's that going? How's that journey going?
well, I've got 5 clients already. And
Wow.
I'm probably going to take on maybe 1 or 2 more, and that's probably going to be about it. Because I
Perfect.
want to make the last thing I want to do is just take on a bunch of clients and take on clients, and I don't deliver any value back, right?
Right.
So
Right. Got
I've
it.
got to I got to be very careful not to get my deer in the headlights and see all these opportunities. Because as a sales guy, it's really hard to say no. I'm used to
Right.
chasing, pursuing people. So having someone come to me and asking me if I can, if they can hire me and pay me, is a hard thing to say no to. But I'm learning how to do it. And again, I'm picking my battles. And what I'll start trying to do at some point is say, listen, I may not be the right guy, but the one thing I can also tell you is over the last, couple of weeks, I've started to meet a lot of other consultants in the space
Mm,
and learn, what their backgrounds are, what they're good at. So if I do have someone that comes to me and says, hey, listen, I need help with, GPS tracking, barcode RFIDs, or whatever that may be. Hey, listen, that's not my jam, but I know this guy over here that comes from that space. He's a perfect person to go talk to, so I'll refer that out because this it's a small industry. Everybody knows everybody for the most part. And if I can, share some love to a few guys over here or over there who could, who are the better fit, first of all, they may see an opportunity down the road when maybe my pipeline is drying up, that can feed some business back to me. So it's really building a community, right, within the industry.
and you've proven it over and over again out throughout your life. You're not afraid to partner because you always have the openness that it's not a zero-sum game. There's no competition in making the world a better place. There's plenty of room for all of us, and you've shown it works. What you did with Ken, what you did with Ingram, over and over again. You've shown that kind of partnering, when there's a logical path forward, can just benefit everybody along the way. So well, it's so exciting to have you, in with your new venture, Circular Integrity, Todd, and to have you on the Impact Podcast. I want you to come back in the future and share your entrepreneurial journey, and how it's going, because there's so many young people out there that look up to the Todd Zegers of the world and want to follow it, but want to understand there's no straight line, and there's no putting it down on paper at a dining room table or a kitchen table and thinking it's going to follow some perfect line. But entrepreneurship is a true journey. And for those listeners and viewers that want to find Todd and want to learn more about all of his great services in ESG, circular economy, radical transparency, integrity, which is critical to our industry, and also e-waste or ITAD, reverse logistics, go to www.circularintegrity.com. I'm on your website now. It's a great website. There's an email portal on it to email Todd. There's a phone number where you can call him direct. Todd Zegers, you're my good friend. I wish you all the best luck and continued success. I hope this venture turns out to be your biggest one ever, and I can't wait to have you back on the Impact Podcast.
Awesome, John. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time. It's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you always. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Engage. Engage is a digital booking platform revolutionizing the talent booking industry. With thousands of athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, Engage is the go-to spot for booking talent, for speeches, custom experiences, live streams, and much more. For more information on Engage or to book talent today, visit letsengage.com.